Welcome back. It's a new year, and it's a new Neon Nightcast podcast. All new cast, baby. You got Michael Rax.
Okay, that's enough.
It's a new year. It's not a new podcast. It's just the same three of us. It's me, Michael Thrax, joined always Garrett Zagri and Eric the Dr. Soybean.
Or as I like to call you, the Cagney to my Lacey.
Sure. You do call me that often. So it's a new year. I'm sure if you listened to the last one, you know that we're going to be doing this bi-weekly because we are concentrating more so on Let's Plays and possibly a new Dungeons and Dragons series.
Bi-weekly, similar to the bi-monthly sci-fi convention or bi-mon sci-fi con.
That's a reference from something, viewers.
Yeah, they got it. Anyways, continuing on.
Did they though, Eric?
Continuing on. So this one, as you know from the title, I always say this. But anyways, we are going to talk about three of our favorite fictional characters of all time.
Not necessarily our top three, just three of our favorites.
Yeah, I know personally, and I'll say which ones are which, but for sure 1 and 2 I'm talking about, and then I picked one that I felt I could talk about the most for my number 3. So anyways, I guess I'll let you guys, tell us how you feel about them and where they stand in your listing. I don't know about you guys, but I like putting things to lists.
I've always been a list maker.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, I always.
I've never had lists. I was just like, oh yeah, I like that. It's up there, but never numbered them.
It helps me keep track of things in my mind.
You and I are like Rob from the movie High Fidelity. He's a compulsive list maker. You guys ever seen that?
I have not seen that. So anyways, Garrett, let's have you lead us off like always.
Alrighty then. My first one is Alphonse Elric of Full Metal Alchemist. That's one of my favorite animes, and just the story of Alphonse and what's his brother's name?
Elric.
No, that's her last name.
Oh, Edward. Sorry, Edward. Yeah.
It's just it's a super fucking sad story because they just try to get their mom back because their dad's a piece of shit that left them. So
yeah, well, they think he's a piece of shit, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, so he's gone and he's doing shit with homunculi and stuff. And their mother dies, so they try to, sacrifice themselves and shit. But Alphonse, in particular, he loses his entire body, where Edward only loses his arm and a leg. So he's stuck in this giant suit of armor at age 8 or 9.
What? See, I've never seen this show, so everything you're telling me is new information. So you're telling me this guy he's just a head, basically?
No. So
no, he's in a suit of armor.
What happens?
Yeah, but I mean, only his head is his actual flesh. And
so what happens is they do the alchemy. They get the recipe together. They basically put all of the ingredients that makes up an adult body, and they do the what is it, a transmutation or whatever?
Yeah, but there's a law of equal
equal,
you have to give what you're taking. So they're taking away from the transmutation, they're taking away all the chemicals that they have placed. So they're taking those away and they're getting a human body.
So if you wanted to make gold, you'd have to put triple the amount of coal. It has to be equal trade.
Yeah. So they try and get their mom back, but they can't account for human soul.
Yeah.
So whenever the equal trade tries to take them as a sacrifice, basically, for giving their mother back.
So what?
But Edward stops it. He traps Alphonse's soul inside a suit of armor with a blood seal, and to do that he sacrifices his arm and a leg to get Alphonse, because otherwise Alphonse was going to be the equal trade for their mother back, but like that wasn't the plan. That's how it ended up happening.
Yeah, they had no idea that would happen.
Yeah.
Originally, like his just his leg was taken, and he had to give up his arm to get back his soul.
Yeah, and then so Alphonse, there is no blood or flesh. It's just a metal suit of armor with a blood seal inside. And if the blood seal gets broken or erased, then his soul leaves the body and goes into the gate, I think is what they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like he's like 8 or 9 years old, and he's put inside this giant, like 6 foot 6 inches like suit of armor, and he still wants to be treated like a kid, but no one treats him that way because everyone thinks he's this full adult because he's in this giant suit of armor.
Yeah,
because no one knows that it's just an empty suit of armor.
His brother like grows up and matures, and he stays basically a kid, but he does grow as a character,
he
but it's very
matures
different
too. But yeah,
it's not like a physical maturing, right? It's not like he went through puberty.
Yeah, it's entirely mental in Alphonse's growth, and it's super sad because like Alphonse, whenever he can't sleep because he doesn't need to. So whenever Edward is sleeping, Alphonse is just like sitting there meditating and just like trying to pass the time.
Yeah,
as a fucking suit of armor.
So his brother gets stated as a state alchemist.
Yeah,
and they'll walk into a building where they're expected, and they'll greet him as
they'll think Alphonse is the state alchemist.
And then like he gets to see his brother like fall in love, and like no one's gonna love him, and he's a very positive character through the most of it.
Yeah, he's very
but
calm,
he's very tragic.
He's like a calm, passive kind of personality, whereas Edward is very aggressive and very loud, mostly because everyone always makes fun of Edward because he's short.
He's so short, yeah.
Yeah, so everyone makes fun of him, and he always yells and just gets mad about it.
I think we talked about...
He does that anime thing where he yells and his mouth becomes like as big as his head.
Yeah. I mean, that is anime, so...
So...
I think...
that he's a tragic hero.
Yeah, and just his personality, like... about like, am I even human anymore? Like what he's trying to find out what he is, and like he wants to be shown love and affection, but it's hard for people to do that because he is just a soul trapped inside a suit of armor.
I think we talked about this before, but I really like in the show, the original series, when mostly Edward, when they kill their first person, like their first criminal, they lose their mind, and not a lot of shows do that.
Yeah, Edward's like throwing up, and he's like his hands are shaking, like he can't deal with what just happened.
Yeah,
and it's so sad.
And they see a lot of fucked up shit, and like it's really heavy shit for kids. Like they spend time with like this family, Eric. And the dad is an alchemist. He's trying
that's the saddest episode.
He's trying to get
his wife back.
Well, like the state will pay him money for his research, but he has to give like yearly evidence to
to basically prove that he's doing research.
Yeah, and so panicked, he basically turns his daughter into like this chimera thing, and she's all fucked up just so he could get his paycheck.
Throughout the entire show, Edward and Alphonse are like bonding with this little girl, and then she goes missing, and they're like, "What the fuck? Where'd she go?" And yeah, they find out that like he combined her with their dog.
Yeah,
and it was so sad.
It's so sad. And like Alphonse is 9 years old and dealing with this. Like that's fucked.
Brings a whole new meaning to the phrase when you say, "Wow, that girl's a dog."
Alphonse is 14 when at the beginning of the manga. Okay. Anyway, so I mean they're still older, but like that's still really young to deal with a lot of this shit.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So
14, they look so young when they're
yeah, that's what it says on the Full Metal Alchemist wiki page.
Maybe
they're 15.
Maybe they're 14 when the series starts, but not...
It says 17 at the end of the manga.
But maybe they're not 14 when they try to transmute.
Oh, yeah. Definitely not whenever they tried to transmute their mom, because then they went to go talk to their teacher, so like Mizuki or Miyagi. I forgot their fucking teacher's name.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Izumi. Is that it? Izumi.
I don't
That's
remember.
It's Izumi. Okay. And yeah, so they trained with her, and the funny thing is that, I mean, Alphonse is always the better martial artist than Edward. I mean, Edward's the better alchemist, but Alphonse is the better martial artist. And it's funny because Edward's like, yeah, even before he was a tin can, he could beat me up.
Yeah, that's another thing is when they do the transmutation or whatever, try to make try to get their mom back. I think it's kind of stated that Edward didn't get fucked up because he was the better alchemist.
Yeah, like he's extremely talented. Like he was one of the youngest state alchemists ever to be initiated and everything. Yeah. But it's also no one's supposed to know that you tried to do human transmutation because it's extremely forbidden. It's like the number one taboo in the world.
Yeah,
in the world of alchemy. So, but yeah.
Do you guys want to? Do you have more to say, or you want to move on?
I think I've said most of it. I just, Alphonse, like I think Eric pointed out, he's a tragic hero, and that's why I think I'm attracted to his character.
Yeah, you also are.
Not attracted like that, Eric.
you also are the younger brother, so maybe that's something that kind of connects.
I mean, I have younger brothers as well, and I'm also an older brother.
Oh, I guess that's true, yeah.
So, but yeah, we can move on.
All right. I guess I'm going next. That's usually the way we do things here. So I'll start with my first one, and my first one is Fox Mulder from The X-Files. Wow. And to just give a little bit of his backstory to explain why I like him. When he was a child, his younger sister was abducted by aliens, and he witnessed it. Now, in the series, they get into a lot of stuff where you think, he's a kid, his memory might have been fucked with, she might have been taken by the government, and they just made him think it was aliens. Regardless of that, he believed for a long time that his sister was abducted by aliens, so he grew up read everything he could about aliens and the paranormal in general, became an FBI agent, and then got assigned to the X-Files, which is, of course, in a fictional division of the FBI that solely existed to investigate paranormal activity. And he uses this to investigate aliens and search for his sister, answers to what happened to her, and also to deal with other paranormal things. And eventually also deal with corrupt people in the government.
Yeah.
And he's really, really... some of the things I like about... I guess in the same way that Garrett was saying about Alphonse, is he's kind of a tragic hero in that regard. I also like how dedicated he is to his cause. Like there's things in there, like he basically hardly ever sleeps. Like there's a part in season 4 where you see his apartment and he doesn't even own a bed, because basically he either just sleeps on in his car during stakeouts, or when the rare times when he's at home, he just sleeps on his couch. Like it's not even worth it to him to own a bed. And also I kind of relate to him, I guess, because, I mean, I never had a sister that was abducted by aliens, but for my entire life, I've been interested in things, in reading and learning about things like that, like aliens and the paranormal, and Forteana, to use the catch-all term for unusual phenomena.
Is he like really skeptical about like the supernatural though? Like, does he always think that there's like a normal reasoning?
He's the super open one.
He's the super open one. His contrast is
Scully
his
is
Scully.
the skeptic.
She's the skeptic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And she's the one who kind of, especially in the earlier seasons, there's always the threat of the X-Files being shut down because the higher-ups don't see the value in it. So she's kind of the one who tempers his reports to make the stuff
them more logical
easier.
and
Right, to make it easier for the higher-ups to swallow, so that they can actually maybe halfway believe the stuff that Mulder's claiming.
It wasn't a wolf man, it was just a rabid wolf.
Yeah, or it was a guy suffering from some incredibly rare disease that made him grow hair, and he was also psychotic and believed he was a werewolf, that type of thing.
Yeah, he's definitely my favorite character on that show. Like, he's just... And I think that's probably most people's favorite characters, because he's just, as much as he is serious, he always gets a good laugh out of you.
Yeah, he does. Like, he does kind of have, I guess, a sarcastic sense of humor too at times.
Yeah, I remember the miniseries that came before this new season. He was hilarious in it.
Yeah, no, that's not even necessarily about Mulder. That's the X-Files in general. They kind of have, there's 3 types of episodes. There's the episodes that deal with like the overall plot line and with about the alien invasion and the corrupt government. And then there's what they call Monster of the Week episodes that are just like, they don't have anything to do with the big storyline. They're just Mulder and Scully dealing with whatever X-File they're investigating that week. And then there's 2 types of those episodes, serious ones and comedic ones. Like, some episodes of that show are pretty much like straight up comedy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not so much about Mulder, the character, that's more about the series. One of the things I like about it is how you have 3 different types of episodes. I just said it. But,
yeah.
So that's what I like about Mulder. Not a lot else I can say, so why don't you go on to your first, Mike?
Okay. I'm going to talk about one of the ones that I kind of just, it's like not a list filler, but not my number 3, but depending on my mood, let's say. I just think I could talk more about this one on a personal level. I'm going to talk about Mugen from Samurai Champloo.
See, when you wrote down Mugen, when we were preparing this episode, I thought his favorite character is a program that lets you generate your own fighting game.
I knew you were going to say that. So they're basically, Eric, I know Garrett's seen the show, so I'll talk to you, I guess. That Mugen and Jin are these 2 samurai that get hired by this girl to find this other samurai. And they're both really talented samurai. Jin has been taught by a master. You know, he's the very by the books.
He's the educated, formal samurai.
And Mugen is he grew up on basically an island that they just sent prisoners to, and those prisoners had kids, and he's just one of those kids. And he's a berserker. He puts in breakdancing with his fighting style. He'll use anything as a weapon.
He also would rather eat than do anything. Hey, that's the only thing I remember about Mugen is he was always looking for food.
There's one episode where this guy is trying to hire him as a bodyguard, and he gives him like crabs, like. Not. I knew Eric was going to say that. Crabs to eat, and Mugen's never had like this luxury before, and he's literally just like biting through their shells and just like eating them, and the guy's just like,
wait, when they're alive and raw?
No, they were cooked.
Oh, okay.
So the guy's like eating it properly, like cracking the shell and whatever, but he's just like eating them. Like, anyways, so basically. There's two types of people in the world. You're either a Mugen or you're a Jin. And I for sure...
Or Betty or Veronica.
I for sure am a Mugen. Like, I'm not dumb, but I'm not... like, in my job, I'm not educated. I didn't go to school for it. And I would say I am just as good as the people that did go to school for it. And, yeah, I just really connected to that character because I just basically for that, I always felt like I was more of a Mugen. And like it's just like this anime came along and it was like, well, that perfectly sums it up. Like there's literally two types of people.
Yeah, I'm definitely a Jin. Like Mugen's way too chaotic and disorganized for me to like him.
Yeah. I know, like, so on Satay, most people keep things very clean and organized and stacked and nice, and like I'm just fucking throw this here, throw that there, and it all comes together to equal, an equal end product. But I just go at it more rough way.
It's funny.
Yeah, I don't know, and that's I guess we could talk about the show and just how he's just my favorite character in the show. Like, there's the one with the story arc with the blind woman. He ends up fighting her, and she's gonna kill him, and she stops, and he's like, why'd you do it? Like, you had me dead, and it's really sad. And the story arc where he meets up with some of his old friends from that island, and they betray him, and you think he's dead.
And he kills them all.
No, Jin kills them.
Okay, it's been so long, I don't remember what happens.
Mugen basically gets backstabbed, and you think he's dead, and Jin kind of just runs into the guy and the girl, and he kills the guy, and the girl's like, kill me, and he's just like, nah, you're better. It's better if you're alive because you'll be miserable. And you're just like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, as much as Jin and Mugen want to kill each other, they're best friends. Yeah.
Like, they will protect each other to their dying breath only because
they want to kill each other.
Like, Jin doesn't want Mugen to die by anyone's hand but his own.
Yeah. And so at the end of the series, Eric, because you'll never watch it,
spoiler alert,
they found the guy that she was looking for, and it's all over. They're okay. They go to like this 3-way road, and they both look at each other, and it's like, okay, it's time to kill each other. Like, this is now we're allowed to fight.
This is the duel to the death that they've been waiting the entire show to do.
And they just shrug, and they're like, okay, I'll see you later, and they just like walk their different ways. And I guess because they finally just like respected each other.
They don't actually give you their final battle.
No. And I love that ending. It was so good.
Eric's disappointed. You could tell.
If you saw the show, you would be like, yeah, it's so good. Like they would love to fight, but maybe they figure like no one's gonna win, and they're just gonna fight forever.
Yeah, that show also has one of the best soundtracks of any anime. There's a song particularly called Shiki no Uta, which I think is the ending, closing song.
Yeah.
And oh god, it's so good. Like, best soundtrack hands down of any anime I watched.
Is it like is there Geno beats like?
No, it's just it sounds kind of like traditional Japanese, but then like there's like a drop, but it's not like a heavy drop. It just like drums get involved, and it just like picks up pace.
So the studio that made it, I can't think of their name right now, but they also did Cowboy Bebop, which was a Western meets a sci-fi.
Space. Yeah.
Where Samurai Champloo is feudal Japan meets hip-hop.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so it will have these traditional sounding songs that just kind of turn into like a hip hop song, and it's just really, really interesting. So let's move on to Garrett's number 2.
My number 2. See, this one's hard. I don't know which one I want to put at number 2. I'll just go in order that I wrote them. So number 2 is Captain, formerly Commander, Benjamin Sisko.
Thong 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 thong. Sorry, I had to get that out there.
Captain Sisko is my favorite Star Trek captain out of all the captains. Like,
wow.
Fuck Picard.
No, Carl.
Picard's
fuck
amazing.
Janeway. Like, I don't give a shit, dude.
It's just really interesting that you like
is-
Sisko the most.
Dude, Sisko deals with so much shit. Like, just because, like, it's the first Star Trek that's not on a starship. It's at a star station, or a space station, Deep Space Nine. And, Jesus, dude. Like, just the character development throughout this entire show. Like, this is my favorite sci-fi show, favorite Star Trek. It's so goddamn good, because the plot of the story is, Cardassians were occupying this planet and suppressing the people, basically making the people slaves and killing them, not giving a fuck about them, basically. And then the Cardassians are kind of kicked out by the Federation, which is humans and Vulcans and all those people. So the Federation occupies Terrak Nor, which was the Cardassian space station orbiting Bajor, which is then renamed Deep Space Nine. And they cohabitat it with Bajorans and Federation members. And there's just there's so much of the story. And then a wormhole appears, a stable wormhole that leads all the way to the Delta Quadrant, like 300 million bajillion light years away. So it's like 56 years at like warp 9 to get there, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so they move the space station to be at the mouth of the wormhole so that, it can monitor traffic, basically. And then, in the Delta Quadrant, through the wormhole in the Delta Quadrant, there's this new rising force called the Dominion, which are just led by these changelings, shapeshifters, basically. And the changelings, the Dominion, and the Cardassians join forces and basically try to take Deep Space Nine, because that's the first step into taking the Federation and Bajor and all that back. And Sisko, he deals with so much shit. Like, dealing with the Cardassians the entire time, because Cardassians, it reminds me a lot of like what would have happened if the Nazis were kicked out of all their territories, but they were allowed to go back to Germany and still have a fascist regime in Germany. This is what would have happened.
A nationalist socialist regime, sir, to be technical, but go on.
Yeah, whatever. Fascist, but
no, Mussolini was a fascist. But go on.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I know,
That's
I'm just
irrelevant.
you're just like ruining everything, Eric. But yeah, so that's what it reminds me of. Is if the Germans were like kicked out of like France and like Belgium and all that shit, they just put back in Germany, and then they're just fucking toying with you the entire time. They're just like, oh yeah, like Bajorans were never really good for much except mining and ore processing.
Yeah.
So it's just a great show because it really, I don't know, it deals with a lot of social issues still too. to them. So
yeah,
it's just Cisco. He's got like the mind of Picard, and just like he can also have like the aggressiveness of Kirk, though. Like that's why I like him so much.
So, yeah, every captain kind of deals with their own problems. So I guess like just kind of Cisco, maybe as the history buff in you, kind of just speaks to you more because it's more not they're not travelers. They're very much their own country.
I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know if I would say like Deep Space Nine is its own country,
but he doesn't explore the way like Kirk.
Yeah, he doesn't. But I don't know. There's still a lot of exploring because there is the Delta Quadrant that they go into quite a bit, and then in season 3 they get one of the Federation's only warships. Like the Federation had this thing where they wouldn't build warships, but they send one to Deep Space Nine under the command of Cisco because of the Dominion and the threat that it is. So, I mean, they do explore a bit in the Delta Quadrant. Like they go and find like the changing homeworld and all that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like even Cisco, like it deals with religion a lot too, because the Bajorans are extremely religious.
And he's like the chosen one, right?
Yeah, Cisco is considered the emissary of the prophets because he's the one that found the wormhole. And the Bajorans believe that their gods are inside the wormhole, whereas everyone else just calls them the wormhole aliens. Because like the wormhole aliens live in, they only live in like 2 dimensions. They don't live in like time.
Yeah.
Like they always exist all the time, everywhere. It's really fucking weird, but yeah. I don't know how to describe.
Really deep math shit.
Yeah, sciencey, timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just Cisco is fucking amazing. I don't know what else to say. Like he
just speaks to you.
Yeah, he does. He just, I don't know why I like him so much, but
because
it might just be because I like Deep Space Nine the most. Like, and then he's like he lost his wife to the Borg, and he actually dislikes Picard a lot because in the pilot, like him and Picard have this meeting, and he does not like Picard at all.
Oh wow.
It could also be because he's a bald black guy and you think there's gold in that noggin.
I mean, just bald people in general. So Picard has gold in his noggin too.
Ah, good point.
But yeah, I think the reason Cisco doesn't like Picard is just because Picard was locutus and one of the Borg for a while.
Well,
and Cisco considers like Picard leading the Borg as the reason his wife died, and then Cisco has to raise his son alone on a space station where his time is very valuable.
Yeah,
and it's just
it makes
poor Cisco.
If Deep Space is your favorite Star Trek, then it makes sense because like mine is Next Generation. Data's my favorite character, but Picard is also my favorite character because he's the captain.
No, pick one right now, Mike. Picard or Data?
Picard.
Gotta give it to Data.
Picard.
Yeah, I gotta give it to Data in TNG.
He's so Data's awesome.
Yeah, he's amazing.
But also, one more thing in Deep Space Nine, Cole Meany or Miles O'Brien. The
Irish guy.
Yeah, he's also in Deep Space Nine and plays a very large role. He was also the only actor to be in 2 Star Trek pilots and 2 Star Trek finales. Ooh. I think, something like that.
No, he's a great character. I remember,
he's amazing.
Like rewatching it, always being like, I know he's a background character, but he's so likable, and then like make him like a main character, and like, oh yeah. But yeah, we should move on.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Okay. For my next, I'm going to bring up somebody also from the X-Files and kind of Mulder's antithesis, the person known as the cigarette smoking man, or just the smoking man, or sometimes cancer man. And he's basically,
as he lights a cigarette,
he's basically a government employee, a very high-ranking government employee, and they introduce him very mysteriously. Basically, a lot of the times you would see him is when Mulder and Scully were presenting their reports on the X-Files to their boss, A.D. Skinner. He would just be standing behind him smoking a cigarette and not saying anything. So you're always wondering, you know, who the fuck is this guy? Whose side is he on? Why is he there? So the first time you ever hear him speak is, I think it's right towards the end of season 1. And it's Mulder and Scully have just presented this report that's particularly off the wall. So Skinner accepts it, Mulder and Scully leaves, and then he just says to the guy, he's like, have you read this? Have you read the report? And the cigarette smoking man says yes. And he goes, well, do you actually believe this? Because at this point in time, Skinner doesn't believe any of this shit. And he just says, of course I do. So at this point, you learn that he's like aware of everything that's going on. And eventually a lot of other stuff that I'm not going to go into comes out because would take a long time to explain. I mean, he's involved, he's been involved in a lot of different high up government. He was involved in the assassination of Martin Luther King. He was involved in the assassination of JFK. He was involved in the faking of the moon landing. And one of my favorite episodes, though, of the whole series is an episode where they actually show you what he's really like as a person. And it's, I believe, in season 4 or 5, and it takes place before the X-Files, the show, started, when he's a younger man. He's already deeply involved with all this government shit. But basically, he takes a vacation from his job. Because, you know, even really high up people in the government, they get vacations like everybody else.
That's not true.
So he takes a vacation, and you find out that he's always wanted to be a creative writer. So he submits a story that he wrote, and the publisher's like, you know what, this is pretty good. It needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Like, it's kind of sloppy, but I'm interested in seeing something. So he decides that on his vacation, he's going to write this story. And if it gets accepted, he's going to leave the government and just become a professional writer. And you see him buy nicotine patches and stop smoking because and this is implying that the whole reason why he's chain smoking constantly is just because he's under so much fucking stress from everything that he's been involved with and everything that's happened to him. Similar to how Mulder like barely doesn't even sleep. This guy chain smokes to deal with it. So he buys the nicotine patches. He tries to write this story. He submits it. It gets rejected. And then he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I can't do anything else, so I'm not going to leave. And he buys a pack of cigarettes and goes back to work for the government.
Wow.
So I know, Garrett, you're not really familiar with the X-Files. But
he's
Mike,
making an appearance in the new ones, I've heard. Mm-hmm. Or at least like Mulder's, because I'm assuming this is like Mulder's number one arch nemesis person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen things about him making an appearance in the new ones.
What do you think of him, Mike?
He always interests me. I haven't seen a lot of it. I'd never seen that episode, but it sounds really interesting. But yeah, I like the idea of like this mysterious higher up, and he knows the aliens exist, and like what does he know? Because you always can tell like he probably fucking knows everything.
Right. I have to say, a common fan complaint about the show is they're like, he was better when we didn't know anything about him. In other words, the more we learned about him, that killed a bit of his mystery.
And that's what happens with mysterious characters.
Right. And I mean, that's a fair enough argument, but in this case, I don't think it really hurts his character because everything we learned about him was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's any mysterious character in any work of fiction ever that's always the complaint, that once you start to get to know more about them, that kills the mystery, and that's part of what makes them cool.
Yeah. So let's move on. Unless you have something else important to say.
I think that's it. Go on.
So I'm going to talk about my second favorite fictional character. And my number one and my number two are very polar opposites. And I think that's why I can hold them so high up. So this one, number two, is Brad Armstrong from the indie RPG Lisa, the Painful RPG, is probably one of the saddest characters I've ever come across in any form of media.
He should have just killed himself.
Well, wow. I was gonna say, I'm not shitting on your choice, but when you described him to me before, like in a private conversation we had months ago, I was like, this guy sounds pretty emo.
Well, he's not emo. Like he's not like an emo character. He's like a brooding character. He's okay, so I'll start from the beginning. He came from an abusive family. He had a father and a younger sister. It is revealed that the father, alongside like beating the shit out of him, would also make him do stuff to his little sister. His little sister then kills herself after actually doing some pretty fucked up shit herself with one of the main villains from the series. So he takes that very personally, and he finds that he is a failure because he was not able to protect her. So he opens a dojo and teaches kids self-defense. He is also addicted to painkillers. So what happens in this world, in this universe, is a big, they call it the white flash, and all women disappear off of the face of the planet. And all the men just kind of go crazy and just are waiting to die. So you got like tribes of,
That's what I would call trap world, because that's what it'd become.
Yeah, there is a side area where it's just like a brothel of cross-dressers.
Mm-hmm.
And, they use porno mags as money, and, people are either depressed or they just go batshit crazy into it. So, a new drug kind of gets spread around called joy, and that's what Brad gets addicted to. So Brad eventually finds a little girl, a baby child, and he's like, holy fuck, like this is the last girl ever. Him and his friends kind of they're like, oh, we should give her up to the army so they can help save the world. And Brad's like, no, we have to keep her a secret. We have to protect her. So as she becomes of age, his friends kind of backstab him, and he tries to give up drugs, and he falls back into it because of his past. And the game and the journey is him trying to get his daughter back, Buddy. And it's just such it's like funny at points, but it's also very depressing at points. You often come across like the ghost of his sister, and she's just like staring at him from a ledge, and those images get more and more recurring as you go on.
But why do you like the character? Like, you're telling us about the game,
Well,
tell us more.
That was his whole past. That's the bringing up of him. Like so you have to make choices within the game. You either give up your items or your team members that you've been leveling up, or you give up body parts of Brad. They'll cut off his arms, and he will become weaker. He is the strongest character in the game by far, and he will just become less and less strong as the game goes on.
Zarek, can you do an entire playthrough without losing any strength on him? Like without losing any? Okay.
Yeah. You can choose. Honestly, I think it'd be harder. I think the easiest choice really is to give up the arms. So yeah, he comes. It's him searching after her, and she starts to really not like him because she wants to be out in the world. She doesn't want to be stuck in a basement, and she's like, all you want to do is just keep me trapped. I want to go out and see this fucking world. And is he right or is he wrong? Like, he wants to protect her because really all these guys just want to fuck her, but she also wants to be able to choose her own life. And
either way, she doesn't get a choice. No matter.
I'm pretty sure this entire game. I'm pretty sure this entire game is just an allegory for having a daughter. But anyways.
Well, I don't know. Whatever. It's just, I really like him because he is such a sad, sad man. Like, all the stuff that you hear about his past is just so heartbreaking. The main villain, the last boss of the game, ends up being his old pupil. That he kind of saw Brad as a father figure, and Brad really just didn't really think much about him, and Brad doesn't even realize it's him, where this guy he knows it's Brad. And there's like the end part is he's like basically fighting an army, and he's just so determined to get her back, plus the joy. Little side whatever, but he's just like killing like man after man after man, and this whole army just ends up being like, the fuck is wrong with this guy? Like, why can't we stop him? He's all like covered, he's got all these spears sticking out of him and shit, and he's like finally like beats up the boss, and he's just like he just asks Buddy, like, did I do the right thing? And you don't know. She doesn't have really an answer. It's just so sad. It's so sad, and I love him for it.
You know what the right thing to do is?
What?
Not play Lisa.
It's a fucking amazing game. Don't do this. Don't make fun of the things I like. Do I talk shit about the shit you guys like? Like, no.
I didn't say. No,
I'm very passionate about the things I like, and everyone.
I didn't even say anything.
No, I know, but everyone always makes fun of me for shit because I really like shit, and just don't do this because it's an amazing fucking game. There's an expansion to the game where you play as Buddy. And she's basically trying to, she's just killing off all of the world leaders, all the big gang leaders, because she wants to sit on the throne. And there's a part.
Who's Buddy?
Buddy's the daughter, the girl he finds.
Wait, okay, then who's Lisa?
Lisa's his sister. Lisa is in the first game. You play as her, and it's like a trip through her mind.
Okay.
It's a really interesting game. So, anyways, yeah, you don't need to type, Eric. I know. There's just like a boss fight essentially within her mind, and it's just really depressing because it's Brad, and it's so sad because it's just like Brad just wants to love you, and I don't know, it's really sad. So anyways, Garrett, what's your number 3?
My number 1?
Yes, sorry.
My number 1, my
third on the list.
My favorite character in my favorite game, Geralt of Rivia, or as some know him, the Butcher of Blaviken, or something like that. I don't really know. Anyway, yeah, it's Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher series and the Witcher, the Polish books, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's where it originally came from. Yeah, Geralt. I mean, he's a great guy. He's very cynical. He's very brooding also. Him and Brad might have some things to talk about.
They'd share a drink.
Dude, they would share a drink, and they'd just sit there.
Yeah.
They would just sit there in silence, brooding, and walk out like best friends.
But yeah, that'd be like the perfect night for them, is just to sit there in silence.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, he is pretty cynical, and like he doesn't. It feels like he doesn't have a lot of what's the opposite of cynical? Cynicism, optimism. He doesn't have a lot of optimism for the world.
Yeah,
And
I could see why though.
But like, if you like underneath his shell, if you get under his skin a little bit, you know, he hates injustice and like would do anything to like right or wrong. Like if he sees a woman getting attacked or beat, or just not even, it doesn't even have to be that severe. Like maybe just like getting threatened out of money. Yeah. He'd step in and be like, all right, back the fuck up. Although he also knows that if he does that, there's a good chance that they'll just come back even harder on the person he helped. So, you know, yeah, he's like, what is there really to do? Like, can I actually do anything to make a difference? And yeah, so The Witcher 3, the one that I played, I've read up on the first two, but the one I played, he's just trying to find his adopted daughter because Witchers can't have children. But
very, very similar theming there.
Oh yeah, that's true, huh? But yeah, so he's just trying to find Ciri, who is like the master of time and space, which is, it's really weird, her abilities. But yeah, he's just trying to find his daughter. He's like, even in the game, he's like really loyal to the other Witchers. He hates the Witcher trials, like the how you become a Witcher, because it's extremely torturous to young boys. Like, yeah, I think you're like 8 or 9 when you go through the Witcher trials, and you just have like literal poison pumped into you. Yeah. And then you have to fight monsters, and like, I think it was, the death rate was like 80% on Witcher trials. Like, hardly anyone made it through Witcher trials. It was pretty sad. And his mother was a witch who basically forced him to become a Witcher. Yeah.
Burn the witch!
We're a little short on time, so I'm just gonna... I think I'm just gonna end it there. Geralt is a great guy. He's extremely... well, one of the things I wanted to say, I guess, is the way in The Witcher 3, the way his attacks are, like with the sword and everything, there's no one else in the game that has animations like him, because the game developers wanted him to look like he was dancing whenever he was fighting. Okay. So, because in the books, that's the way his fighting style is described, is just like dancing with the sword.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, he's great. He's got lots of scars, and he's known as the White Wolf, the Butcher of Blaviken, and lots of other mean names.
He also fucks 2 hot chicks. So
yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Triss and Yennefer. You get to see their titties in the game. Nice. And there's also another chick, but she's less important that he fucks. Or you can. Okay. Anyway, go ahead, Eric.
Okay. For my last one, instead of just coming right out and saying who it is, I'm going to read a quote from 2 characters who are looking at a painting of this character, who's one of my favorites. Okay. I sense great vulnerability, a man-child crying out for love, an innocent orphan in the postmodern world. I see a parasite, a sexually depraved miscreant who is seeking only to gratify his basest and most immediate urges. His struggle is man's struggle. He lifts my spirit. He is a loathsome, offensive brute, yet I can't look away. He transcends time and space. He sickens me. So, that's a quote about Kramer from Seinfeld, which is obviously, compared to the characters you guys have been talking about and compared to the first 2 characters I've been talking about,
very lighthearted.
Totally different type of character, a comedic character, but yeah. I think he is an amazing character in a way, simply because he stole that fucking show. Yeah. You know, he was just supposed to be kind of the generic wacky neighbor, which has been a sitcom staple since the 50s, but he wound up becoming, in a show that had all the four main characters, five, I'll even throw Newman in there, all were very funny and very unique, but Kramer managed to be the funniest and most unique of all.
Hey, man, that's like your opinion.
Well, who would you put above him?
Go George Costanza.
Yeah,
George Costanza is an amazing character, I won't deny. But,
George Costanza is a force all on his own, man.
Yeah, but Kramer, like, how can you not love Kramer? Like, all the fucking wacky ideas he gets.
That's why I don't like Kramer, is because he's such a fucking crazy person. That's why I can't place him at number one, is because he's actually crazy. He actually has like some kind of mental illness, I think.
Probably.
Oh, definitely. He's a master of physical comedy too, which I always found. It's physical comedy is one of those things where anybody can do it. Well, almost anybody can do it, but to do it well takes real talent, in my opinion.
Him and Leahy are like the two best. One of the two best of our time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. One of my favorite Kramer moments, I think, is the one where they suspect that Jerry's accountant is using his money for cocaine. Yeah. So Kramer goes into the bar to try and like somehow get this guy to admit that he's on coke to him, and he just like lights up a cigarette and picks up a beer, and he's like, "Hey, here's to feeling good all the time."
Yeah.
And like drinks the beer while still smoking the cig.
Yeah.
And then eventually the guy's like, "I'm gonna hit the men's room," and Kramer's just like, "I'm hip to that scene." He's just like, "What are you talking about?"
No, he's like, when I get back here, like,
hang on. He's like, "I'm hip to that scene." He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "The bathroom scene, man."
Oh, yeah.
I'm hip.
Yeah.
And then the guy's like, "Don't take this personally, but when I come back, I'm sitting over there." And Kramer's just like, "Whatever turns you on."
He's not gonna jive.
Yeah. So I guess that's all I want to say about him, unless anybody else has a favorite Kramer moment they want to throw out there.
I loved it whenever he was at the comedy club, and he just yelled at that black guy saying the N-word.
Oh yeah, that was so funny.
That was hilarious.
Wow, what a good episode of Seinfeld that was. Let's not talk about that. Okay, so yeah, quickly. Like I said, complete opposite, where Brad is the saddest character you'll ever come across. Kamina from Gurren Lagann is probably one of the most inspiring characters you'll ever meet.
Yeah, I mean, he banged Yoko, man. Props to him for that.
It is implied.
Did they actually bang?
It's in, like, implied. Like,
okay.
They hooked up.
Yeah, all right.
In a show that's 27 episodes long, and he's only in 8 episodes, and still like the fan favorite. Like he really stole the show.
He's mentioned in all 27 episodes.
Kinda. I don't think not in every episode. He does kinda come back at the last, but not really. Not physically. He's not back from the dead or anything.
Simon becomes Kamina.
Simone, yeah.
Simone.
Yeah, there's like a part at the end, and this is like a big spoiler, but there's a part at the end where they're like trapped within this. It's like the main villain can like basically make universes, and so they're trapped in a universe that like in their own mind, where it will just feed them things they want to see to keep them happy. And then they'll always be trapped because they just won't want to leave this universe. And how they escape is that Kamina, who's like quote unquote in Simone's heart, like basically comes back to life and like breaks him out of it. And it's like the most touching part of the entire series. So yeah, it's just, God, he's just so good. Like he's all boasting and like very full of himself, very charismatic, but he comes out and he says that like, you know, I'm only this way because I have Simone behind me. And Simone is like the generic wimpy at the beginning of the series, a very wimpy,
coward
coward main character. Yeah. much like the other show that they did, Evangelion, the main character from that show. And it's just really touching that he like says shit like this, because it's like he's like, I would be nothing without him and he would be nothing without me, essentially. And yeah, it's just like I said it before, like he's in 8 episodes and he's the fan favorite. Everyone fucking loves him. He's everyone's favorite character, and that's what makes his death just so much more. He's just such a great character. He's all covered in tribal tattoos. I have like a quarter of my body tattooed like his. He left that much of an impact on me.
It's very important, little Mikey.
Yeah. I have a Mugen tattoo.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, the rooster.
Oh, I thought that was just because it was your spirit animal.
Well, yeah, it is, and I always like that picture. In the theme song, they use, like, there's a picture of Mugen with that rooster, and then it's actually, like, a famous Japanese painting.
What if it's, like, a rooster that Mugen was preparing to eat?
I'm okay with that. And eventually I do want to get, like, a big Brad Armstrong tattoo. But, yeah,
You should get it.
Are you just gonna what's the Brad tattoo gonna look like? Does Brad have tattoos in the game?
No, I was gonna get what I've been thinking of, and I you know, I'm not an artist or whatever, but it would basically be like, because he has a very simple design, so it'd be kind of like his head,
like a sprite almost.
Not a sprite. It would be like a skull, but it would basically just look like his head, because he has a very simple design. And I think that'd be really kind of cool, because he's very, very dead inside.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. So that's it for me. I love them all. Like, yeah.
I love them. I love them. I love them.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks, everyone.
See you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.